speaking of her, she just sent me something on Instagram. Me and T Swift like 'em hairy. So we're gonna find that out.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Storymoders podcast. My name is Robert, Mike is here, and we are joined by our very special guest and new best friend, Luis Aguasvivas. How you doing, Luis?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's great to have a new best friends, especially now where it's like tough for men to find friends if you're reading all the news. So it's like, hey, I'm hit the jackpot,
There we
you
go.
go.
Yeah. Luis hopped on and we immediately started talking about hockey, Pokemon, and how Mike's girlfriend is mad at me. So, the huge. But, Luis, before we jump in everything, can you tell our fine listeners / watchers just a little bit about yourself, what you do, and
more importantly, where to find you on the internet.
Yeah. And then we'll loop back around to that again at the end.
Yep.
But,
so I'm a games critic, if that's still a thing anymore. So you can find me all over the internet. I try to cover specifically like indie games or games that I feel aren't going to get that much attention. I kind of make that a point, like to use like my platform for that. And when I mean that, I'm like the guy who's like reviewing like HIO games on like a major like publication. I'm like that psycho that's doing that. That's so, which I mean, it's good. There's a lot of great games, as everybody knows. There's just like a lot of games. So whatever I can like extend a hand and find something awesome. People can. I'm a regular contributor to NPR. I help put like their best games of the year's list. So that's coming up soon for the best games so far. That should be coming up either in June or July.
what's number one so far?
Oh, we
And
don't.
Is it
Well,
Expedition 33.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people really, really like that game a lot. It's good. It's good. I usually advocate for the stuff that's like a little harder. So I'm always gonna be that guy like, pushing for that. I'm a staff writer also at PopMatters, which is one of the oldest cultural like criticism like websites on the internet. It's founded in 1999, still independent since 1999, which is really rare. I'm a member of the New York Videogame Critics Circle. We do the New York Game Awards. We had our biggest award last year, actually. Well, this year because it was in January, but it's pretty big. We had over 500,000 people were watching it. The venue was completely like sold out. It was a huge success. We honored Sam Lake. He got a Legend Award. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. That was like unanimous when it's like, oh, this guy. I'm like, yes. I'm like the guy who was advocating. We got to get some of these like Japanese designers like back from like the 80s. Like we got to like because they need to get awards. But when they said, I'm like, yeah, Sam Lake's cool. Yeah, he can get it.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I watched the New York Game Awards. This isn't like a derogatory thing, but I forget exactly which one's which because a lot of them happen so close, and I try to watch like all the awards, and I'm pretty sure the New York one was one that I watched live on probably Amazon, not Amazon, Google, YouTube.
It's owned
this
by
Pokemon
YouTube's
list, man.
owned by Google now. Yeah,
this damn Pokemon list is screwing with
we
my
try to
mind.
be everywhere for that. We try to be on.
Yeah.
So,
Hell yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk games. I have new best friends. Get so lonely here in the big city, so thank you.
That's that New York, it's what's that population? Maybe 1,200, one streetlight, right?
That's just like nothing. This is desolate. It's like just you see just way more cacti and tumbleweeds than you see people.
Yeah. I've seen movies, but Luis, I'm trying to get into a habit of asking our guests a couple of questions at the beginning just to kind of get a baseline. So, first question, second question. First one, What's the first game you remember playing? Second question, what is your favorite game of all time?
Ooh, okay. The first one, that's an easy one, because I mean it's the first one I remember playing, and that's Prince of Persia, the original Prince
The
of
OG.
Persia.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's the yeah. That's a game that's seared into my memory. And I was always like a big fan of what that game is based off, which is like Thousand and One Nights. That's like a huge like book for me as like a kid. So just seeing that, like my uncle, who's a computer programmer at the time, was always like with computers and everything, and he was, you know, I was born in Dominican Republic, so access to games, especially like in the 80s and 90s, wasn't very easy. I mean, even in the US at that point, it wasn't
Mhm.
like it's not as
Yeah.
ubiquitous as it is now. But here it's like very difficult. And folks, I don't know how he was able to get. I don't know how he was able to get. Obviously, it was a copied flash version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jordan Meshner, if you're listening to this. But that's how. Wait, I actually talk about that a bit in I reviewed Jordan Meshner's most recent book, but one of his most recent books, which it's a graphic novel called Replay, which is about like his family's history. He also talks about the development of Prince of Persia and everything on there. I just mentioned that briefly, how that's like the first game that I've ever played. So
Hell yeah.
it's
Hell
pretty
yeah.
awesome. My favorite game, that changes. That changes every second, you know. So I'm gonna be spicy, and I'm gonna say, it's such a hard question. Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
it's a question that you hear a lot, but there's not a lot of people where you're like, "What's your favorite game?" And they're just like, "This is it." Because you
Yeah.
think about
well,
one, and then you're like,
it's
"Yeah, but maybe this other one." But oh, maybe this other one.
Yeah, well, it's also like if you play a lot of them, and not only
Mhm.
even play a lot of them, if you play a lot of them in like in conjunction with like either work or something, too, it changes just because you have to like think
Yeah.
about them differently all the time.
Yeah.
There's like when I was a little kid, I used to love Zelda 2 for like example, which is like the black sheep, you know. But
I mean, I would say
I
those
just liked it
CDI
because I
games
was
might be the black sheep.
well, Zelda 2. I think Zelda 2 now it gets a lot more like
Yeah. Yeah.
gets to just desserts, but for like a while it's like, oh, the game's like too hard. It's like too weird for like what it or compared to like other like 2D Zelda games. But there was a while then that I fell back on. I'm like, oh, I don't like this, because then I played like Link to the Past and like Link's Awakening. It's like, oh, these are better and things. So it just keeps going back and forth. I'm gonna commit because you guys are my friends, and in friendship it's important to commit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna say this for a reason too. So it's gonna be Adamari Damacy, and the reason I'm saying this is To the T's coming out next week, which
That comes out next week already. I know the demo came out today.
the 28th, I think it is.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh, that's
it's
next
Takahashi's
week.
like next game, and that's a game that I think about all the time.
Yeah.
It's just it's one of the it's one of the genius like 3D like game designs where it's still intuitive even for a person that doesn't really play video games. Once they understand that how to like move the control sticks and stuff, anybody I can teach that to like my grandma and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she'll get like that dopamine like feedback loop of the game, like showing her that she's doing what she's supposed to be
Just
doing,
rolling
right?
around picking stuff up, and you're like, "Ooh, I can pick this up. Oh, I can't pick that up yet. Let me go do this, and then come back." Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, Katamari
That
Damacy
music,
is
that music is
Oh.
just stays
Yeah.
in my heart.
the
So
soundtrack.
good. Mm-hmm.
I sing that song every time I feed pigs of rats out on the subway.
Perfect. Oh
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
Is it two a T or to the T?
To a T,
To a T. Yeah.
right?
I
Let me make
picked
sure that was
I
correct.
picked that up in my fantasy draft, so I'm so glad to like. There's been a lot of people playing it today in the demo, being like, it's really really fun and really
That's
unique.
what
So yeah.
I'm set to review that game, so I'm
Nice.
thinking
Nice.
about that a lot. So
Now, I mean, just a little segue into that. So when it comes to reviewing games like that, you're obviously, we just said Katamari Damacy is your favorite game. This is a new game from that creator. So do you pitch yourself being like, hey, I'd like to review this game? Or is it like, this goes out to the team, and we know that you're a fan of it. So how about you cover it? Kind of, just what's the process there? You know?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It depends on under the conditions, right? If it's like PopMatters, which I'm essentially for a while was like the only person writing about games, it's like whatever the hell I wanted to talk, right? Whatever I wanted to cover, it's just like up to me, which is pretty neat. And if I'm writing for another publication, maybe it's just like if the editor knows me, they want me specific. It's like they know the way that I write, they know like my taste, and like, oh, this would be a good pick for Luis, so they'll reach out and it's like, hey, Luis, like, do you wanna cover that? Which is usually those are the two realms where like I don't personally pitch myself, like I don't go out and pitch places because one, I hate it, and two, it's hell to pitch, just like the reality of it. I feel that it's like a hazing, like one needs to do it at the beginning because that's just how it goes, but after a while you just start feeling that like people aren't really reading your pitches, unfortunately. Like, and if they do, it's like you might not even respond, and that just, and if I don't need to do it, I'm just not gonna do it. I just don't. And especially now, like who are you gonna write with now? It's just like difficult.
Okay, yeah, good to know. Good to know. Yeah, before we jump into kind of our big topic, Mike, how are you doing this week, bud? I see the Everton kit. Congrats on not getting relegated. You are muted. Yep.
There it is. I poked the wrong button.
Yeah.
Thank you. Always a big year when we don't get relegated.
Yeah.
Keeping that streak in the top flight going. Yeah, also getting a win in Goodison on its last day. So
yeah, that was
well.
It's the last day, but now
last day for
Goodison's going to be used.
Last day for the senior men's club.
Yeah.
But now we'll be home of Everton women. So you know what? As long as they keep winning the derby, I have no issues. I will figure out a way to add on to Goodison.
Yeah.
Like, do you want more Goodison? Let's do this.
Well,
yeah. But that's awesome. I have been playing Cyberpunk on the stream, and that's been fun. Especially when my complete disregard for stealth just kind of comes to the forefront. Yeah, so that's fun. Still a lot of like, be quiet, make sure nobody sees you. Let me just adjust this loadout to the loudest thing I can get. And I have been playing Claire Obscure off stream maniacally.
Yeah. We're gonna you. I hope you finish by next week because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
Expedition 33. Yeah.
Well, here's the. I mean, I got a long weekend, so I can definitely grind some time.
That game came out of nowhere.
Right?
Out of nowhere to like captivate people. Like,
that's.
I didn't even like have it on my radar. Like I knew it was coming out because of getting like press emails and stuff. But I was like, yeah,
like I saw it on Game Pass and I'm like, okay, and I just kind of moved past it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it was first announced last year on, it was either like a Summer Game Fest or like an Xbox thing, but it was like in the summer. I think it was like in the June time. And from that first trailer, I was like, this is 1000% my shit. It looks cool as hell. The turn-based battling just from like the original trailers, I was like, okay, that's like Persona. It just looks like Persona, and I fucking love Persona. So I've been really looking forward to it, and then once it dropped, and I ended up having a few days off of work. I think it came out before I started my job, so I was off work because I didn't have a job at the point. I just played it all weekend for like 40 hours in a few days because it was just my 1000% my shit. But Mike, I want to circle back really quick to Goodison Park and the future tenants of Goodison Park, the Everton women's team who play in, I believe, the Women's Super League. in England, and I want to just open a beer, and I want to raise a toast
to
the undefeated domestic treble winners, Chelsea Women's Football Club.
That is amazing.
Undefeated over 3 campaigns domestically. Don't ask us about Champions League. That doesn't count. Fuck Barcelona. Okay.
It only counts when we win it.
Yep. But Chelsea women, domestic treble, league cup, and women's FA Cup. Oh god, couldn't have happened to a better team. And next year, Sam Kerr's back, and she's incredible. She wasn't even playing this season. We went undefeated in the league.
Jesus.
It's gonna be a bloodbath.
Cheers. Yeah, cheers for that. If I knew, I would have gotten like some beer or something. I think.
Don't worry, it's fine. I got you covered, mate.
All right.
Yep. And I mean, speaking of beer, I posted it today.
Oh yes.
We have Storymoders pint glass on our store now. It's got the circle logo just kind of all around it. I'm gonna get one ordered so that the Chelsea glass is perfect, beautiful in every single way. But have a Storymoders glass. And yeah, one more announcement for our store, and then we're going to jump into the topic. When this goes up on Thursday, the 22nd, our entire Pride line of T-shirts is going up live as well. We've got, I think, 16 different shirt designs, all kind of just variations of kind of the same idea. Just covering kind of all the different aspects and different oh god, now I'm sexualities and like asexuality and gender and everything. So take a look at it. Anything that you want to buy, half the proceeds will go to Encircle, which is a family and LGBTQ plus family resource center here in Utah. Really good work. I know that our soccer supporters groups, they raise money every June, and all the money goes to Encircle as well. So it's a great cause, and that's going to be live as this goes up on the 22nd. So go check out those shirts. Get 1, get 16, get all of them. But that's live. But I just wanted to shout that out. And Mike, there's a reason that we invited Luis here today, and not just to hear me talk about the Chelsea Women's Club, which, once again, cheers. But Luis covers, and like he said, all indie games and itch.io games and games that are fly under the radar. So today we're talking about indie games, and I have a question for the two of you. Easy question, just right off the top of the dome. What makes a game an indie game? Simple question,
It's a good question. That's a really good question. It's been debated for a while now. I mean, for me personally, it's not so much personally. I think there is like a actual thing to this, which it's like I don't know if you remember the whole like Dave the Diver situation with the Game Awards, right?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask this, because of that whole situation a couple years ago.
And it's like, well, is it an indie game? An indie game is essentially one that is developed and distributed, like published, right? The publisher itself is not. It's not like a huge publisher. It's not a AAA studio or linked with some like huge like company. Essentially, usually the vision is like it's like a smallish team that works on it. Though that's not necessarily true nowadays too, because just a lot of work it's offshore to like a lot of like other countries. But typically it stands like within that realm, and it runs the gamut from you have like a team of 100 people to one person. So even that, right? It's like the size of what an indie game is. It's just so different too, right? You can have a game that's just a few people, and you can have a game that's 50 people. That's like an indie. So it's
or 30, and then
Yeah, or 30, or
more
then
obscure.
Yeah. Well, that one falls probably like within. It's weird too, right? Because like once you leave, I think within the U.S. context, that's also where it's more clear cut in the U.S. context because there's not public funding for video games or the
That's
arts
very
like
true.
in general.
Yeah.
Right. When you
Yeah.
go to Europe or Canada, essentially you have these funds
Yeah.
that
Yeah, they
that are available through grants or whatever. So it's so that kind of, and for Clear Obscure, I know that the studio there got actually a pretty decent amount of money from the French government to the point where also, and even a lot of recognition from, I know the
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Macron even like said, the president of France, he's like, hey, like,
Congrats
all
to
this game
Claire
shows,
Obscure for
yeah,
yeah.
this game shows like French ingenuity, or it's just like how awesome the French are and how our culture is superior. Even our video games are superior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Now,
didn't really
Mike.
say that.
Yeah, Mike. What is your idea of what an indie game is? Like, is it
I
because
mean,
once again, going back to like the Dave the Diver thing, a lot of people were like, "Oh no, it's an indie game because it's pixel art," but it's like, yeah, but it was developed like the company developing the game is one of the biggest developing like publishing companies in the world. I forget exactly who it was. I don't know if it was Tencent.
it's like
Um,
no, but it's like
Yeah.
like you're like you're your own thing, but you're also a wholly owned subsidiary of
yeah,
this bigger thing.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I think like with anything independent, be it film or whatever, it's something made outside of like the traditional big like tentpole either locations or studios,
Mhm.
So, yeah, literally just like a few people getting together and just being like, we can make this. That's independent. Or even like I would say if some guys just went rogue, some developers were like, we are going to choose to go into our own direction, It's like, okay, cool. You guys worked at EA for 20 years, but now it's just the five of you in a tiny, I'm sure, terrible office trying to grind out a game that has crazy expectations because of what you guys did for the last 15, 20 years. Like that would also be, in my mind, an indie game. It's like, yeah, these dudes have a ton of experience, but they're not using any of the resources of their former giant employer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that just kind of talking about Claire Obscure again, because it's a recent game, and it is I technically, quote unquote, it is an indie game, by those parameters, because it's not coming from like an EA, it's not a first party game for Microsoft or anything. But in the situation with that, and Luis, I don't know if you have any more kind of insider knowledge on not just this situation but just in general. That was announced a long time ago as coming to Game Pass on day one. Xbox Game Pass. So, from what I understand, it like the very limited part of the Game Pass system that I understand is that obviously like the developers and the studios get paid by Microsoft to have this game come out on Game Pass because it will inevitably eat some sales if people who have Game Pass can just play it instead of buying it on Xbox. But do studios get that money after the game is made, or can they kind of put that into the development cost of the game because they're like, yeah, once we get it done, then we know we've got this check from Microsoft coming, so we can kind of work against that, and then that's kind of ballooning their budget a little bit more. And at that point, does that still keep that independent? Because yeah, Microsoft's giving them the money for it, but Microsoft's also not being like, okay, this is what we want you to do is this. It's just we know what you're doing is cool. We want it over here. Put it over here when you're done.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean that's a lot of that's a lot of loaded stuff to think about there. And honestly, really, the only true independent like developers out there are folks that are like making mods for games that already aren't developed, or folks that are publishing like their own like passion projects on like itch.io, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like for the most part, which are like PC only, because even if you're developing for a console, you got to have access to the console kit, and that already puts you in communication, right? That puts you in communication with that. You have to, depending on the circumstance, you have to pay a bit. Well, it works the other way. You have to pay to get your game into the store. Sometimes you might be able to get like a deal, like in the case of like Game Pass. Now, I don't think that having a game on Game Pass or even something like, well, when Stadia was a thing, right? Or Apple Arcade, or even like Netflix, which I guess like games now on there. That's more of like a distribution like model to like help like get your game out there. I think what you're saying though, like if I'm actually not too certain of if, especially for Game Pass, like they'll give you money off, right? They might. I mean, Microsoft has the funds. But I don't. I also just also like how much is like the money that puts you like beholden to, like if it's like a few million, like a million or whatever, which when you're talking about like game development now, it's like nothing. Like for a 3D like HD like 4K game or whatever, that's like you burn that in a week.
Yeah.
I don't know if that. I think it becomes a question if like funds are actually completely necessary for you to have the game, because the game also was, I'm talking like Clear Obscura, was also released on PlayStation 5 as well.
So it came out on Game Pass on day one, but it was a multi-platform release.
And I think it's sold most of its copies on PlayStation. Now, well, obviously, so
with Game Pass, it's kind of
it's weird to see that. So I mean, I'll say that just because you take the money or distribute it, that doesn't necessarily like make you not an indie. You got to go into the books, right? You have to see like, okay, how much did you end up getting? Was this essential for you to make the game? Or let's say now if this was like a exclusive, right, a Microsoft exclusive, then you can be like, oh, okay, maybe there's more. Maybe Microsoft did like pay like a lot more. But I think most people didn't know what this game was gonna be, like the hit that it was. I think if Microsoft or even like Sony knew, they would have definitely like jumped on it. And Samfall Interactive, which is the developer, this is like their first game as a studio too, right? So, it's really no, I mean it's a phenomenal story. But I think one of the things, this is kind of veering off topic a bit, but one of the things that it shows though, it's like the importance of having support for like the arts, and because they got a lot of support from the French government, and and that, and it's a really like accomplished like game. I mean, it takes a lot of these formulas that we like. I mean, I love like JRPGs, for example. I just type. I mean, it's like Final Fantasy X like mixed with Persona, like with the sleekness of like Persona, with this, with this like battle system that it's Paper Mario, but meets. It's like Sekiro or things like it's really awesome, and like the art design and everything around it, it's all its own. It's like a completely
it's
new,
a game that very clearly wears its inspirations on its sleeves, and it's not afraid to be like, this is the game that we're making, and this is what we wanted to make, and knock that out of the park. But you're talking about like the government funding and kind of the support for the arts. It makes me think of we had our friend, once again, everybody that comes on the show is our best friend, except for Verum Dex, who was our best friend. Sorry, no offense. But we had our good friend, best friend, Remy Sue from Sunset Visitor on last year to talk about 1000 Times Resist.
That's my homie. That's my good homie. Okay, good. Yeah.
So he was on here. We learned that he's just a massive Transformers fan. Michael Bay fan specifically. He loves the Michael Bay movies.
Specifically.
I did not know this.
Yeah, go watch that episode. It's obviously we just like to sit here and just kind of chit chat, but we veered off topic and started talking about Michael Bay and specifically the Transformers, like that Linkin Park Transformers meme. And just kept Just kind of we talked about that for like 20 minutes, and then we're like, all right, so the game, and that was like a hard pivot into, all right, so let's talk about the story, But that game, incredible, and that's a tiny team that made it, but they got that, they were able to get that funding from the Canadian government for the arts, and look what they created. We can talk about Clair Obscur and how beautiful it looks and everything, and how big it is, but 1,000 Times Resist it's much smaller in scale, and that's not a knock at it, but it is one of the most beautiful, haunting games that I've ever played, and I'll never forget about it. I think they just won a goddamn Peabody Award.
Won Peabody, well deserved. Yeah, I congratulated Remy over that. It was just such a huge. They deserve it. I championed that game so hard.
Oh yeah,
I still do. I think that's one of the best pieces of interactive media that I've ever encountered. Like that story's like amazing. But yeah, it really does speak to like the funding, and and I've spoken to a few folks, Sunset Visitor, and it's like not only did that help them make the game, I mean it helped them live. They were able to pay the rent, buy food in the meantime of it. And it's really important. It's almost like a different world, right? Living like in the US, especially with situations like going on now, right? And it's just like, oh, you have like arts grant funding, and as like an artist, you can actually make a living. You're not gonna be rich, but you can make a living as an artist, and you don't need to like have 30 jobs and no health insurance.
Or like
you don't have to, you can, and it's obviously you're not living on easy street, as they say, but it's you can. It seems like they're able to just focus on, okay, I've got this part of my life sorted, so I can really kind of pour myself into my work here. Which, once again, when the game comes out and we all play it, it's very adamant. I remember I heard about that game, talking about it again, I heard about that game from Barrett Courtney over at Kinda Funny, and then at the end of the year, when they were talking about their best games, I think it was on his list at like number 1 or number 2 for like his game of the year of 2024, and it's this little indie game that just kind of came out of nowhere, but because this team had that support and were able to tell the story they wanted to tell, and kind of pull from real life with everything that they were going through with COVID specifically, that whole sense of being alone in the world, and fund the arts, you
For
fucking
real.
assholes in our government. Sorry, we're gonna get political here, but our government fucking sucks. Now, Luis, I want to talk to you about just about indie games, and kind of what do you look for in a game, like on itch.io, when you're trying to look for a game to cover? Do you just kind of grab a bunch of stuff and just jump into it for a few minutes, or are you looking at specific developers? Is there anything that you are looking for when you want to find these much smaller scope games?
I mean, all of the above, but like the big determining factor has to do with, I guess, like how much time I have, right? Like if I have like a chunk of time that I can dedicate, I just grab like at random like a few things. Obviously, like I have like an eye, I have like a specific like taste, so I look and it's like, oh, this is, I just don't even want to like, there's gonna be a lot of great stuff that I'm gonna miss, right? I'm not like a completionist, and and it's just impossible.
Yeah, nobody should be the completionist. We've learned that.
Yeah, and I've learned to like accept that. Other times it's either recommendation, right? Like somebody that I like respect. It's like, hey, like this is coming out, or I played this, like try that out. Sometimes that means like going back to something that's been out for months, if not years, right? And I just like go back and, oh, like this is actually, I can't believe like I missed something like this. It's sometimes it's also just, as you were saying, at the developer, somebody that I respect, I know their work, and I just want to like keep seeing like how they develop, and there's so many options to pick from, and I think it's important to have like different ways of different entry points, right, into these things. That's like one of the best ways to do it, because if you just like focus necessarily like on one thing, there might be certain things that you're gonna miss, or you just get complacent because it's like, oh, I just like this specific, I just like these three like developers, and I'm just gonna play like their stuff, and then and then you miss other stuff, or those developers make games that you might eventually not like anymore. You fall out of love for, or you don't like appreciate it as much as you did before. That's really, I mean, that's really how it goes. I mean, it's a itch.io's a monster trying to find stuff. I mean, Steam is also like a monster if you want to try to find things. So, um, do, but it's the same. Even if I was gonna look at something like on Steam or something. Luckily, though, for bigger games, even within like the indie realm, like I get a lot of. I mean, I'm inundated with like press emails and stuff. It's like, hey, this game's coming out. Hey, this game came out. So and going to like expos or conferences, you get to see like a lot of stuff. So I honestly, what you need is like shooters. You need shooters that are there just like stuff out who like email you. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
this, I'm trying to get to that point in life where I have agents, have feds out there looking at stuff for me.
Like, we know what you like. Hey, play this one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Kiryu's friends in like Yakuza who just like calling him out of nowhere. It's like, hey, like what? Watch out for this, and it's like, all right, got this. That's where I'm getting there. I'm getting.
All right. And now we're gonna veer into Yakuza talk. So, no, I fucking love those games. But Mike,
yo,
I just had something that I was gonna ask you, and then I started thinking about Yakuza, and now
was it gonna be what indie games have I been playing lately?
Let's go with that. Because I know you can think about that for a moment. But I typically will play, like, for our viewers, listeners, they know that I typically get caught up on like just one game at a time. So when I pick a game to play, typically it's going to be a huge, long ass game like a Clair Obscur, like the Persona game, stuff like that, and I will just get stuck into that game until I'm done with it, whether that's beating the story or getting all the achievements, because I am that kind of idiot. But typically what I do is I'll do that, I'll play this big giant open world game, and then before I jump into the next one, I like to just kind of scroll through Steam or, in a lot of situations, Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, and look for these indie games, or like kind of these smaller bites, if you will, and kind of use that as my palate cleanser. And I found some really, really fun stuff over the years that I wouldn't have necessarily played if it wasn't for just kind of the way that I consume video games. And one of the ones recently is I finished Clair Obscur, and I think this is indie, because it wasn't like a Microsoft or anything, but it's called Crime Scene Cleaner, and it's on Game Pass.
I don't know. I don't think I know that one.
And it's essentially like a like Power Wash Simulator, but you're specifically a guy working for the mob, and you clean up crime scenes and like murder scenes. So you've got to get the bodies and get all the evidence, and then clean out all the blood and get all of the garbage and everything out. And
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll try this out for a little bit, and then that became my, all right, this is all I'm fucking playing until I get through this dumbass story. But it's just so goddamn fun, and there's a lot of these simulator games coming out now that I think, most of them are going to be on the independent scene, because it's just like, hey, let's take this kind of, obviously this mundane thing of cleaning. Let's give you a story, and let's just make it so you can kind of do this, like, this cozy game and just chill and kind of vibe out. But Mike, what are the indie games that you've been playing? And specifically, because I know Annie has been playing some games lately, and I'm pretty sure everything that she's really gotten into has been on that kind of indie scene.
Yeah, I mean, the last two things she played were Unpacking and Donut County.
Yeah.
So yeah, so she was big fans of those. Yeah, just because I think like a modern AAA is a little, it can be a bit much for somebody just getting into stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, starting off with something as simple as unpack your house or control a hole and swallow things.
Yeah.
You know,
Which is almost the opposite of Katamari Damacy.
it
You're
really
making
is.
things disappear instead of putting them all together, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, no, it seems like indie games are really her kick, which kind of really tracks. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been playing Clear Obscure, but I dug the Switch Lite out of storage and got a bigger micro SD card for that bad boy so I could put some games on there. And I bought all the Borderlands games yet again, and I have not played any of them because I've been playing Disco Elysium.
Yes.
And I'm just like, yep, this is the thing that is going to consume me when we are just sitting on the couch and she falls asleep because it's a comfy ass couch.
Yeah.
You know, or she's asleep and I'm in bed unable to sleep. So yeah, like that has been those have been the big two, but on every system I do have Hollow Knight installed. Just because that one's a fun it's fun to kind of pick up and get into, because it takes forever for me to get
out
back
this
to it.
year, okay? And it fucking better come out this year.
I'll believe it when I see it.
It better come out this year. It's on my fantasy draft, okay? I need Silk Song if I want to win this league.
I need this. They're gonna take his thumbs.
I mean, they already delayed GTA 6. They're not gonna delay Silk Song.
Yeah.
If they do that, the industry's gonna collapse.
Oh man, Silk Song. They've over the past month or so, there have been 2 new things saying 2025, and like the Switch 2 announcement. Silk Song was in there, and then they uploaded some like a couple of new screenshots or whatever to like their Steam page. Like it's coming out this year, and it's gonna be 100 out of 100, and I'm gonna win the fantasy league and keep the trophy. I don't have the trophy yet. Gage has a trophy, but I'll get the trophy. Then I'm gonna keep the trophy because I'm not gonna give it back. And yeah, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so oh god, I just had something in my mind. Actually, I thought of something that we talked about with I think Dex, that I want to bring up again because the reason that I had the question and the idea was because of last year with Balatro, where that just literally came out of nowhere, made by one dude, and just took over gaming. So, Luis, let's say from now until the end of the year, okay, everything that we know or think that's coming out this year, so, Silk Song and I guess Borderlands and all these other big names that we know are coming out this year, come out, and they're all just as good as we think they're going to be, okay? Hypothetically, everything comes out, everything is as good or as bad as you think it's going to be. Do you think, or do you kind of get any sort of vibes that there is going to be a Game of the Year nominee from like the indie space that we just haven't heard of? Is that something that you think happens enough to where you're like, oh, we're just kind of waiting for it this year? Or is Balatro just completely out of left field?
We haven't heard of. I don't think anything like Balatro. I would say if you're thinking of like, I don't think anything like that. I mean, there could be. There's. I think for me personally, there might be games that might be considered that, but that's a lot of that just has to do like with the space that like I occupy and stuff. I think wider speaking, no, I don't see anything like knocking out Obscura or I mean I know I can't. It's like one that will like overtake any even like the triple A stuff, double A stuff. No, I mean there's some I mean, according to rumors, there's like some huge Nintendo games coming out in the fall in December that they haven't like even like mentioned yet, which might definitely make like a huge like dent on that and like be like huge contenders. There's, I mean, this is not like indie. I mean, there's the Metal Gear Delta.
Oh yeah.
There's like the remake of Snake Eater coming out. There's a lot of like. It's kind of good that GTA 6 isn't coming out this year because there's actually a lot of bigger games coming out once like the fall hits and everything. No, I'm from the top of my head. Can I? Don't. I don't know. I mean, because it's weird because a lot of indie games like they might be like your favorite game of the year in the sense of like you enjoyed them the most. A lot of it just has to do because they are less taxing on your time or things you can pick up like really easily. But that's Scratch is like a very different age, right? Than like that big, like HD, like 4K game.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's almost like they're like it can occupy the same room at the same time, right? And still be and you don't have like a problem with that. So it's rare that you're gonna see like a game just like Bogotro, that's like a game should be illegal. Like it's just like that gameplay loop is like insane on that.
Yeah, there's a reason that I've never tried playing it because I'm like, I feel like this would be a game that I would just be like, oh, it's one more run, just one more.
No, I have very little. One, I love deck builders, and I have very little self control when it comes to like games like that. So you add those two things together, and it's just like my life would collapse. Like I tried it a bit, but it wasn't even like I made sure it wasn't even like on my phone or like one of my like consoles or computers, like somebody else is like, oh, let me try. It's okay. Yeah, I can never play this. So but it's, yeah. I'm trying to see. I have to pull up my list of indie games, that I'm looking forward to. I mean, to the T's coming out next week. I mean, I've done some. I've played that at previous. I don't think that's gonna be like game of the year, like material for a lot of people. From what I played, it's pretty great, but it's not. It doesn't reach like those heights. There's the new. Oh, does this count? The Deltarune chapters, the new that are coming out.
because they got chapters 3 and 4 coming out on the Switch now.
4. Yeah. So I mean, that's not out of nowhere. That game's pretty great, and the game's not even complete. So it's like
that's kind of another thing about specifically like a Deltarune. Like you've got games releasing in these chapters, and the chapters themselves could be incredible, but it's like, how do you? Are you going off of kind of reviewing even just the specific chapters, or are you waiting for everything? It's kind of like when a game comes out in early access, like Hades 2 last year. People were reviewing that early access like very highly. But now when the game comes out, like fully comes out, is this going to be like are you reviewing it separately, or you just be like, oh yeah, this was our early access review, and now here's this bit that they added on because now it's the full game. So that's going to be kind of weird.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I usually wait for to have the complete thing to make like my entire assessment, because one, you just need to, and two, you never know. Like the game might be like, oh, this is incredible. Most games actually, like the beginning of the game is usually the best part.
Yeah,
that's when they have stuff, and then eventually you either like get bored of it or things just like start tanking. So you need to like see everything on there. 80s 2, I think that's gonna be a huge contender, but that's not unknown, right? That's not coming out of nowhere. People are definitely expecting that. So I do feel people are less excited about that game now than it seemed. I think if it would have dropped like late last year,
like the entire thing.
I don't know, if at least from I don't know how you guys see it. I want to hear what you think, but it definitely seems like it's the thing. It's like you're playing it, and it's not like Hades 1, right? When it was like early, that one was also early access, but Supergiant, they weren't that big at that point. They weren't. So it was like, oh, this game's like great. So when it did drop, a lot of more people got to experience it. Now it's like everybody that wants to play Hades 2 for the most part has played it in early access.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people that are going to be probably there's not a lot of people that want to play Hades 2 that are waiting for the full release, because they're seeing all these other people play it, and they're seeing content about it and reviews and videos and everything on it, and they're just like, I can't get away from this, so I might as well get the early access and play it. The Hades 2 early access thing for me was a little weird, because I tried playing Hades, I was shit at it, and I wasn't having a good time, so I dropped it. But from what I've heard, that Hades 2 early access is a really good chunk of game. So a lot of people are like, this is like, this feels almost like a full game, but it has like a hard stop at some point, where in my mind, if you're doing early access, it's probably because you're trying to get that feedback on what we need to, adjust and fix. That's, in the past, would be like a demo. You'd put the demo out and people would play a level and be like, oh, I didn't like this, I like this, or I didn't like this, I like this, But if you're putting out an early access version that is a majority of the game that you think of, what's the selling point when the game comes out other than a few more hours of story? So when you say it seems like it's not as maybe hyped up as we would think it was, do you think that kind of really big chunk of Hades 2 in the early access is to blame? Like, do you think it should have been like maybe here's 3 hours instead of 7 or 8 or 9? It's just here's a good chunk of it. Here's a bit to wet your whistle. You're gonna get to a door where there's a boss fight, and then it's gonna end, and you're gonna be like, fuck, now I want the rest of the game, which maybe would have happened in the full thing. Like I said, I haven't played it.
But that's through early access. They're like adding more. Like if you would play Hades 2 today, compared to when it first dropped in early access, there's so much more in the game now. Like a lot of that stuff, how it ended, now that's included. Because one thing, like, let's be clear here too, it's like you're paying for the game to access the early access.
Yeah.
You're paying the exact amount they're going to charge you if you bought it when the game goes gold.
And a lot of times you're paying less even, that I've seen. Like you pay, hey, this is $30 in early access, and you get it, and then when the game comes out, you get the whole thing, and then when it comes out, it's $45, $50.
Off.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, this is actually a really good conversation to have about like indie games. It is like a good model for the indie studios, the smaller studios to have.
Yeah.
It's like, because you're essentially, you're getting two things just straight off the bat. You're getting QA testers, right, that are paying you the game, which lets you to essentially have like funds to be able to like keep like developing it. Which like, look at the example for like Hades 2.
That is Annie. She's mad at me. Yeah. But
if you look at the example, if you look at the example for Hades 1, like, as I was said before, like Supergiant was like, it was known, they were respected, but it's like they had like a niche following. Like it's not like people were playing it, they really liked it, but there was still like a lot more room to grow, right, for them. But when people were talking about Hades, oh, it's like great, it's like really great, but that wasn't enough to get a lot of people to pick it up. Once the game came out and then the reviews came out, right, and you started seeing like the sexy characters, and all this, then it's like folks are like, okay, I gotta play this. And that game was huge hit across the board, like commercially, critically. Hades 2, it's like I don't know how much further the actual like fan base. I'm not saying it's not going to be financially successful. I'm just saying I don't know how much. Like it's just not. Even if it's a better game, I don't know. It's not going to make the same impact. I can't see it making the same impact like when taking that into consideration. And I know they've had issues. There's like been some controversy now too, like with like voice actors and everything, and some of the image that they cultivated, being like an independent studio that treats like its workers like fairly and stuff. That's been like shattered a bit. I don't know how much that's gonna hurt them. But which I mean, that's not such a big deal like in the AAA space because they have an expectation that it's like
you
these are like
unfortunately
behemoth
you expect
companies and
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, for it would feel like a double A or like smaller studio. There's more. Remember like CD Project Red situation. That was like a pretty big deal for them to the point that, which in a good way, right? It led to like a lot of positive changes within like the company eventually when they were getting called out for, for their treatment and stuff. But I like the model is also weird because it kind of takes you. It's good for the companies because it takes you out of that whole like having to generate like all this buzz because once it's like you can't really fail, right? Like let's say 1 million people have already paid for Hades 2 on early access. Like that pays development costs, that pays what you need, and you essentially made your money for the game, right? Um, so anything out of that, you're just like making even more money. It's not like it's not like once we release this game, it's like do or die for us. Like we have to sell set amount or we're fucked, right? Like it's like we're going out of
business. It's like you've probably and hopefully not, but you've probably sold a good majority of the copies that you're going to sell.
Yeah, and that's
because
what
these are the fans.
That looks like that to me on it. I think. But I think what it does hurt when it comes to like the general like buzz and even like critical like consensus. Because I don't know how much I can talk about this, but it's like when Hades 2 came early access, we were actually a lot of folks were considering like, oh, this game should be we should nominate this game for like the awards. Just based on that. I mean, a few people were like, I don't know, it's not out, but it is like a question. It's like, it's out, like essentially, like as it is. It's not done.
Yeah.
So it becomes, I personally felt like on the side of like the game isn't out. I don't think it'll be fair to the game and even to players as well, because there's just a lot of people that are probably, I just want to wait for it to be done.
And
remember, like Baldur's Gate 3, for example, that was in early access forever.
Yeah, that was early access for a couple of years.
Seriously, yeah.
But that I mean, I don't know, and that benefited from early access, and a lot of people picked it up afterwards. But I don't know.
Well, Baldur's Gate 3, and we might, I mean, almost think about that as, oh god. I was gonna say kind of like as this Clair Obscur, where it was out in early access, and it's Baldur's Gate 3, so it was going to be a known quantity, but it wasn't until the game fully came out that it got this massive buzz, and then people were like, oh shit, this is like a masterpiece. It, like we said, it was in early access for a couple years, and people that had it then were loving it and they were playing it and they were probably talking about it. But then when it fully came out is when, at least for me, I didn't know it was in early access until after it came out, and I was reading reviews and they're like, yeah, it's been in early access for a couple years. Whereas Hades 2 is at that, it kind of almost, like you said, almost hit that peak of it's in early access, everybody go to it and everybody play it. What is, what are the possibilities that when it comes out in a full release, it's going to be able to pick that magic back up? And in the thoughts of, should we review it now and kind of have it go up for Game of the Year or like any game like awards, other than potentially best early access game of the year, something like that, would that then disqualify it for the next year when the full game comes out? Or what if when the full game comes out, they've changed a bunch of stuff and then it sucks? They're like, we didn't like what we were doing over here, so we just change it. Now it's free to play and it's microtransactions. But thanks for the Game of the Year nominee, because now we've got that on our thing. But it Hades 2 is going to be a weird one when it comes out. I think it's going to get incredible reviews. I don't think they're going to be able to fuck this up.
No.
And they've got Ben Starr, so it's at least a 7 out of 10 there.
Yeah, that guy's voice definitely gives you at least 2 points.
Yeah.
Off of just like period. It can be the slobbiest AI of the AI, and just like his voice, it's like it's all right. I mean, it's you can bear through
I
it.
recommend it.
Yeah, sure.
Until you get to this character, and then whatever.
And once you get through them, it's like you just like lay the controller down and just like
good.
listen, and it's like
You're
it's a decent experience. No, it's one thing though that helps games like those though. Talking about like Hades, the Hades and the Baldur's Gate. It's like these are games though that like there's a lot of variability, right? So even when you're playing like the early access stuff, there's a lot of things that you're just not going to be able to see. I mean, Baldur's Gate, like we all know, like all the different scenarios and things that could come out of it.
Yeah.
So that is one of the neat things about those though. Because imagine if this was like the model for like a pretty like traditional like like indie like 2D platformer situation. Like you can be like that's probably a bad idea to do the early access on there because you're gonna see just so much of the game. And it's not just like when it comes to like the loops, right? Because like in Hades, you have like these different like setups that you can get like through like a playthrough, different dialogues that may or may not occur, right? You can do that game and play it like 300 times and like just do like completely different playthroughs like each time, right?
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate, same thing. I mean, like every 5 minutes, it's just like the wildest shit you've ever seen, those games are better suited, and they're aware of this, right? The developers, they're aware of this. It's not just like, yeah, we're gonna make this Mario clone and stuff, and at most you might have like 2 branching paths like per world, but early access, and it's like better be like the greatest freaking platformer the world's ever. Like it better just like world peace. Like you grab that controller and it's just like
it better be an indie Astrobot.
Yeah,
it has to be better than that.
Yeah.
To be able to like succeed, it has to.
Luis,
it has to
Luis,
be,
Astrobot was the game of the year. Okay, nothing's better than it of the year 2024. Don't ask anyone else. Okay. All right.
I think
Keeley
that
said it.
Overrated.
Oh, woo!
I think that. I mean, it's a good game, and I see why people voted for it. But I think when you look at it, like when you compare it to like other great 3D platformers, it's not better than Odyssey, for example.
Yeah.
Even now, like an Odyssey's what, like 300 years old at this point, 7 years old. 27. Yeah.
Was that that was almost like, that wasn't a launch title, but that was like really early on in the Switch's life.
Same year, right? Yeah, it's 2017. That Switch first year, it's like it's almost like it's so good that you forget how good it is. I have to constantly remind myself like everything that came out in that year, because you just think of like Zelda or whatever, but then like eventually you're just like, wait, Mario Odyssey came out that year? No. It's like arguably the two most like defining games of like their genres to come out like there, like, and that kind of hurt Odyssey, I think, because it came out with
there was just so much good stuff. Yeah.
Trying to whole year was crazy too. This wasn't just on the Nintendo front too, just like other titles too. But Odyssey, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think that game's like underrated. I think that game is. I think it is. I think if one goes back, and I played it again like 2 years ago, and I was just like, holy shit, this is like the best Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I played. I did not play enough of Odyssey. I'll just say that right now.
It's a strong game.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mike? What do you think of Odyssey?
That's one I need to go back and revisit, because I remember an ex-girlfriend bought me my Switch. I have a Switch Lite, so that's the only Switch I have. But she bought me that, and the first 2 games I bought were physical copies of Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. And honestly, between the two, like, I go back to Breath of the Wild, here and there, but it's always like, fuck, where am I? I always forget that everything breaks with like 3 swings.
Yeah. So
instantly that panic and frustration. Man, Odyssey, if I'm just like, I want to have a good time, like, pop that cartridge in. Like, because it is so good. Like, it's so enjoyable. There were parts where I was challenged, but I never felt like, oh, cool, I completely screwed something up and I need to go back and fix it like I do with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, they're both amazing. But yeah, no, I feel like Odyssey was definitely overshadowed by Breath of the Wild. And it just never, it never got quite the shine that it deserved.
Well, I just looked it up. The Switch launched on March 3rd, 2017 with Breath of the Wild and some other games. Odyssey came out October 27th, 2017. So 2 of the best games that came out for the Switch came out in the first 7 months of the Switch.
Damn.
No, and that's Odyssey. What I think of Odyssey, like, and Super Mario 64, we can also, it's like a classic, prove the concept of like a 3D game and 3D platform.
It moved. It was a Concord moment. It moved everything forward.
Yeah, but that's a game that, and it's still great to play now, like, all things considered, but how people remember it, especially like, that area like right before you enter the castle, where it's like, oh, you have this freedom to move and stuff.
You just run around,
That's actually what Odyssey is, though. Like, Odyssey is that, like, fully realized, like, in every stage, it's like you have this playground, you have this like perfectly like constructed playground where it's like you have these tools you can do. So and the game is not, for the most part, the game is not that difficult. You can get through that game really easy, but then you have challenges that you can undertake if you want extra challenge, or if you're really skilled, you can break the game. You can do like crazy jumps on that. Like, it's a really charming game, and nothing's better than possessing a frog. That is the most cursed thing I've ever seen. It's so metal. It's just so fucked up. Like, you just take the hat and then the frog, and you're just like, what the hell are you doing, Mario? You've already killed so much. Killing is not enough for you, Mario.
Now you have to do this?
You have to take people's souls. You have to take the frog.
This is an affront to God Almighty. What are you doing?
That frog was about... That
frog's living its life, having a good time. You just ruin that frog's fucking everything. Because then you leave, and it's like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
That frog was about to give birth, go into its pond, like, give its little pouch, and like thousands of frogs are going to come out. And Mario just comes in and stops that right there. And it's like, no, I'm going to use you to jump because I need this moon thing.
I need to get over here. I need your soul. I am Shang Tsung. Your soul is mine.
It's amazing. It's good. Okay. I mean, not to praise. Nintendo doesn't need any praise, but that game is. I mean, it's a good game.
All right. What we're gonna do? Let's take a quick break. I'm gonna talk about something real quick. We're gonna take a quick break because I got to pee. And then we'll keep going. But this Saturday, 24th. May 24th is the final episode of Season 2 of the regular episodes. Pixel Pop Stars, our good friend Vitz Patel, puts on Pixel Pop Stars, a video game and pop culture trivia show over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Vitz Patel. I am going to be on it this week with our good friend Verum Dex. I'm going to kick his ass because...
As you should.
As I should. I'm going to, because why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
But we're going to run a quick video. Just, if you haven't subscribed to Vitz Patel's Twitch channel or the YouTube to watch the replays, do it now. Take a look at this.
What's good, everyone? My name is Vitz Patel, and I've been working on something special.
It's time for Pixel Pop Stars, the all-new game show.
on Twitch.
Let these nice moments be on with your specialist subject.
Watch new episodes live on twitch.tv/VitzPatel.
Welcome back. Yes, Pixel Pop Stars this Saturday. Mike, let's talk about pizza some more.
Let's do it. So I do
Luis
own
was
not
telling
one
us
but two
that
deep
his
dish
favorite
pans.
pizza is Chicago style pizza. Loves the casserole.
The Chicago style deep dish. Thank you. Much like the rest of the Midwest locals, they eat tavern style, which is very thin, crispy crust, and it's cut into squares because nothing's better when you're drunk than eating a lot of something.
That's true. That is true. Or even when you're not drunk too, if it's good, you just wanna keep downing it.
Yeah.
No, my favorite pizza is not Chicago pizza, to the chagrin and disappointment of all those people out there by the Great Lakes. It's good. It's one thing, like you can't eat that all the time. That's a problem.
No.
though. Like,
Oh God, no. That's why, like, when your aunt comes in from like Tucson, yeah, you take her to Uno or Due or Lou Malnati's. You get her the deep dish. But if you're living there, like, there's some small like indie places, like dudes just out there throwing together a weird ass deep dish. That's a fun thing. But no, for the most part, you're getting like tavern style or Pizza Hut or whatever. You know.
Yeah, you might have that like maybe at most like once a month or something, because if you have it any more than that, you're dealing with it is that casserole. That casserole will do major damage.
It catches up real quick. You know.
Yeah, I'm a pizza connoisseur, so I know. Hey, if I could eat that every day, I would. I've tried,
right?
and I just can't.
No.
I can't. I'm sorry.
I worked at a place where I got them for free, and no, there was no way I could eat that like every night. No.
You try. That's the thing. Like, we try, right? It's not like if we're just saying this out of like you see it. No, we're human beings. We're dumb, So you try. You try to do it, and then eventually you're just like, oh man, am I gonna die?
Just suddenly you're just holding your left hand up, just doing this. Just that ain't
like
good.
That frog. You're like that frog in Mario Odyssey. Like when you have you're like, what the fuck is happening to me?
Like, where is my life going? What is this?
I had a wife and kids. They got to be wondering where the hell I am.
What year is
like
it?
in the back alley, just like trying to like eat that pizza. You any way you can, and you're just like, this is a problem.
I need help.
One thing you can do every day with Chicago pizza / casserole is you can use it as a Yakuza like finisher blow, where you like stuff the person's face underneath, just like it just came out of the oven, and you put their face in that. Like,
it's gonna burn everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's over.
You do that with like a New York pizza. A little greasy. No.
Nobody cares.
No. You gotta submerge them in that sauce, cheese topping.
You might get like 4-5 inches of that potentially, depending where you go. You throw. Majima won't come back to like, hey, I'm trying to like toughen you up again. He won't. He'll just be like, dude, you're sick. Don't talk to me.
Those fucking pirates won't goddamn come back and fight me every 4 hours in game either.
Yeah, that's they picked up some of the bad stuff from Yakuza Kiwami, the first one on there, but yeah.
Oh. And now I have to ask, what's the best pizza in New York?
The best. New York, it's been
like, what's your go-to? Like, like what's your like when you're just like, I need a slice, where are you going?
Are you a slice man, or are you like, we're getting a pizza, we're getting a whole pie?
Well, the convenience of the slice is like, it's like the cell phone app of the food world. It's just like you can eat it whenever, like when you're doing whatever, right? It's like you're scrolling on Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now, right? It's like
it's Twitter.
If you still do that, Twitter. one still has that curse life, right? But so I mean, ideally I would like to do like the pie, right? Because you're doing that like socially with folks and hanging out, but most of the time you just pick a slice or two and like you eat them as like you're walking to work, and and you pray that a pizza rat pops up, so you give them a pizza so you get 10 years of good luck. So fun fact, if you ever see a pizza rat or you're in New York City, that is guaranteed 10 years of good luck. Better than the lottery, better than anything. Everything you want will come true no matter how good or bad it is. It's amazing. An extra 5 years if you give the rat a little kiss as it's eating. You're just like,
I'm gonna keep that in mind. Everybody keep that in mind. If you see a rat in New York, kiss it. Only if it has pizza, though. No. If you see a rat walking around with a cigarette, no. You call the cops. That is not a rat. That is a small person in a suit.
Oh, yeah. It can be terrifying. No, go to pizza. There's a lot of good places here. So I spent a lot of time in Lower Manhattan in the Village. So there's places like there's John's, which is like one of the original like pizza places here. The problem with that one is they only do pies.
Ooh.
It's over 100 years old though. Like it's like that sauce. It's like when you think of like New York sauce, that's like the spot.
God, yeah.
That's
and man, having to get a whole pie, it's like, oh no. Like
it's also New York sauce, so it's not gonna kill you, but it is.
Yeah,
it's inconvenient. I would say
it is. Because
you need to make the time.
Yeah. That's like a meal thing. That's not a I'm walking around and grabbing something. Yeah, that's I have a plan to go here, get a pie, and take it somewhere and eat it. Or I don't if they have but you're eating that pie then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a I mean, just across the Hudson River, Jersey City has actually some really mean pizza places. Like I'm saying, like just amazing like slices. There's this place, Bread and Salt, and they do like Roman style pizzas. So and it's just like which is like really thin, and there are mainly square, but they come out looking. What's the shape I'm looking? I don't know what the shape it's called, but it's like a rectangle that has like curved edges on the end, and they're like really long. Yeah, and like the ingredients are like freaking amazing. Like it tastes like if you're like if you're just like walking through, through like Napoli or something, and you're just like high-fiving your Italian grandma. Even if you don't have one, you have one when you eat that. But it's just like you're just like,
She just pops up, looks for the high five, and then disappears. You turn around, she's gone.
She's gone. But
turns out it was Mario.
Oh,
it was Mario the whole time.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, took over an Italian lady, and then when he left, she disappeared.
Yep. Man, she's still disappointed in you, though.
Yeah.
Still wishing you did a little bit better.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Luckily, my grandmother was German, so she was very even keeled. Just a nice church lady.
Yep.
Never drank. Never did anything wrong. Don't ask where her husband was during the 40s. So indie games.
Never visited Argentina. Nope, everything's fine.
Yeah. Indie games.
Mm-hmm. When is that indie game going to be made that you got to go to Argentina to check for? Why aren't
Look, there probably fucking is one.
I'm sure some. I'm sure you can catch that in Israel.
I think it's called Papers, Please, right? Where you're trying to find.
Oh yeah.
That feels like that one could go either way, though.
That's a good game. My last article for Game Informer. Well. Before they shut down and now they're back up was on that game. So
well, I saw your most recent article, and I'm probably gonna pronounce the name wrong. Despelote.
You said it correct again. You sure your grandmother's Argentinian or you're not?
German, not Argentinian.
One is German, one is British.
No.
My grandparents
There's
didn't
some
get a lot during the
Argentinian in there, man. Your Spanish pronunciation it's amazing.
But that what is I've seen I think like one or two trailers for that, and it was probably at probably like a 6-1 indie showcase last year or something.
That's about right.
What is that game? And I saw you gave it like you know in your Blue Sky post. I was gonna say tweet, but that's not what it fucking is. You're like, I don't like to really give numbers to games, but 11 out of 10. Like,
yeah. From the Blue Sky, if you post something on Blue Sky, it's called you're shitting like a bird. So you can't. No, yeah, I shit it. As I shit it on. No, that game's amazing.
Yeah.
It's had pretty good stuff about it.
Yeah.
It's.
What?
I mean,
did that one for you? Did that one come out of nowhere or?
No. So that's a game that I've known about it actually, and for a long time, because that was at the So, well, the two main folks behind that game, they were students at New York University's Game Center, which actually makes a lot of like their folks are graduating. They're making pretty like interesting like indie games now that are like coming out, and some folks are going out to like work on like bigger AAA games. But they're individuals are less known, right? If you work on like in a AAA.
Yeah.
Video, but that's a game that I've known about since it was like in their incubator program, and it caught my attention because that art style was pretty set. From there, it's like, oh, that's like really interesting looking game. It's essentially like, I mean, if I would have to describe it, I mean, I'll describe it as like a story driven game, but it's really like, I hate this term, but I think listeners will like understand this immediately. It's like a walking simulator, right?
Mm-hmm.
You played stuff like Firewatch or like What Remains of like Edith Finch, which are some of like the better ones like within that space. But it's like it's more than that because Firewatch is really good. So I'll say that's one that I really do enjoy. But it's you're not like just going from one place to like one place and like hearing stuff. You have like this pretty compact like area, like your neighborhood, and you're walking around there and you're playing soccer, but there's no stakes, for lack of better words, right? Like it's not like you don't have like objectives regarding like, oh, kick the ball through here or do that. It's just like you can just do that. And it feels so good that you're gonna do it anyway. Right, and it's so intuitive that you're just having like a good time, and the game is gonna progress regardless of what you're doing, which is really interesting. There's not that many games that like do these type of things where it's like I don't know if you've heard of. So I played Citizen Sleeper 2 earlier this year. I don't know if that's another indie game.
I played a bit of Citizen Sleeper.
Oddly
enough, when we were doing our fantasy draft, like our fantasy game critic draft, I was waiting for my turn, and I was like, I know that Citizen Sleeper got great scores, so I'm gonna get Citizen Sleeper 2 as like one of my picks. So while I was waiting for my turn to pick, I went and grabbed my Steam Deck, pulled up Game Pass because it was on there, and started playing Citizen Sleeper 1. Just because that's how you can fucking access games now, is at any goddamn time. I didn't understand it. Yeah. I'm not smart enough for that game. But
no, well, yeah, it's a weird mix up, and I kind of talked about that in my review. I didn't review the first one. I reviewed the second one. Which I talked about it because it's like it's really well written, and once you get into like the story's actually really like captivating and engaging. But it's a game that this is specifically 2 because that's the one I reviewed. It's like it's one that like it's trying to. The story is very hopeful. Like in the end, it's about like building like this ragtag group of like friends. It like simulates essentially playing like a tabletop RPG. That can be like a little off because you're like rolling dice, literally, right?
Yeah.
And you're putting it into actions, which. I mean, the interface looks good on it, and once you know it, it makes sense. The thing, it's like. A lot of that information now when you're playing RPGs, especially like if you mainly play video games, that's like hidden from you, right? You just select the stuff and then the RNG like dictates like how much damage you're doing against the right opponent, or something like Baldur's Gate, you'll just like succeed or not, or like whatever. You'll get like one of like the options. That one kind of like shows you more of that through like the dice stuff, because the dice then tells you, before you even roll, it will tell you, it's like, oh, you have these options. Like if you get a 1, you're gonna have like a 0% chance of succeeding, right? If you roll a 6, you're gonna have a 80% chance. So then it reveals the statistics right behind like the system. Now, Despelote is not like that, like at all. Like at all. That's not even like the but the reason I say this though is because Citizen Sleeper 2, it's a game that the game will just end like eventually. Like if you keep, you're doing missions, but even if you fuck up or if you succeed in the missions, the story's still gonna progress regardless. Which I thought that was neat, because at times that game can be like way too difficult. Which is like, there was a point where I was just like, I just want this shit to be like done. Just like I just, I was just like getting like ones on everything, and like everybody was dying and whatever. And I'm just like, and you dig yourself in this hole where it's like, there's no way that I'm gonna like complete the next mission, or I'm gonna get what I need for it. It feels like really like oppressive. In Despelote, it's not really like that, because it's like it's like a cozy game in a way. Like you're just going through this, and it's like this narrator was the character you control, Julian. It's like this little boy during like this like really important period in like Ecuador's history, which is like where the game takes place in. And it's essentially like, so it's like this coming of age tale where he's like telling you like what's going on with this time period. And you're just going around, you're talking to people, you're eating this, and it takes like 2 hours to complete.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's just it's the best design decisions you can possibly make for that type of game. Because like, as you probably heard from my voice, my switch, I'm not a big fan of so-called like walking simulators. I don't really like that personally that much. But this one does it in a way where it's like, I can get behind it, because it progresses. You have an option to like F around and like do actual gameplay, so as we would traditionally call like gameplay stuff. You can kick the ball and you can just see, oh, there's this bottle up here. Let me see if I can like kick that. It's not gonna progress the story,
but it's there.
Us is but us is, and like I said, the gameplay is like intuitive and fun enough that it kind of, you're almost like led to do it just by yourself, and you're just seeing that. And as you're doing that, the time's just ticking, and eventually, because you can just stand there, you can just stand there and like wait till the time clicks, and they'll take you to the next scene. But that would be boring, right? So it's better just for you to like walk and like see things. So like it leads you to do things in ways that like really neat. And the story's really neat as well. It's just like, it's something that most people don't know anything about, and it's done in this way where, I don't know if you've seen, I mean, there's probably like better like English language films too that
Michael Bay's Transformers, maybe.
I mean, Despelote is the Michael Bay's Transformers of what's that game of the Goose Game, Untitled Goose Game. But no, it's have you ever seen that movie? It's like a Alfonso Cuarón movie, Y Tu Mamá También, like a really famous Mexican film that came out in the early 2000s.
No.
Well,
I saw that. It has been about 20 years since I've seen it, but I remember watching it for a film class.
Yeah, well, you remember like in parts of it, like you have the stories that's going on, and then like between scenes, like the narrator will talk about like the camera will pan, and there'll be like all people are like protesting in the street or things like that, and it like tells you like what's actually happening like within the country.
Yeah.
So Despelote does that, which is like, which within like a video game, that's very rare. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you have some games that do like lore or do like exposition, like for environmental storytelling, but that's rare, and it's usually like in huge like RPGs, and you have to you have to be engaged to try to do that. The game does that like in a very subtle way that's not like, you don't feel like forced, or you don't feel like it's a chore, right? Because you either love going through like those lore books and like, in Elder Scrolls, or you just like, I'm never gonna open this. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna read this crap. You know, this game just like a quick minute of like, oh,
It's like,
this happened.
here's the
during-
world that you're in, and now let's do this. And now after you do this, it's like, okay, here's a bit more of the world that you're in, just to give you a little more context of what your character is feeling and going through.
And it's really awesome, and it plays with perspective. It plays with it's really similar to something like A Thousand Times Resist. It's really similar to that too, in regards to like how it like breaks like this like meta narrative, where like there's like scenes where like you like peers back, like you see like the importance of camera angles, right? You see the importance of like creating a story. The game kind of does that. It's not that bleak, obviously. Like A Thousand Times Resist is a very, very dark game.
Yeah.
Overall, but it's in the same mode, and it's the same level of like artistry as that game.
We've got it up on the screen right now. I just pulled up at FGW on YouTube has a gameplay walkthrough full game. It's like an hour and a half long, so I just have this kind of playing, just as almost like B-roll as we're talking about it. And yeah, this is definitely just kind of going over the art style. I can't say that I've seen a game that looks like this.
Yeah,
and
I haven't seen a game that looks like that before either.
And it's just, it looks, you see this and now I'm like, I know what game this is, just from like a screenshot.
Yeah, it's worth it. Like and like I said, the experience is also so short. Like it's not like a big ass of it, and it's. I mean, if it's for you just by looking at it, which is really neat. And I described it in my review as like something almost like Pac-Man or like Space Invaders, where it's like you automatically see it. Not only do you know what it is, you know how to play.
Yeah.
Which for a 3D game, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like really wild. That's really wild, because now it's, you have like all these systems and all. You're just like, that game is just like you're just walking around. I mean, obviously it's 3D, so it's more tasking than like Pac-Man, which is like moving like the joystick. But it's really it's a huge accomplishment in my opinion, and as a game.
I wanna see, because you mentioned it is the. I'm trying to find the Pac-Man of Latin American games, and I was wondering what you meant by that. But yeah, that makes sense. That you see that, you look at this and you're like, I know what I'm gonna do. I might not know the story, but I know if I pick up the sticks, I know what I'm gonna be doing, or the keyboard, and whatever. But I understand what you, because I read that earlier and I was like, am I eating dots? What? I don't understand what that means.
Like in its own way, like you are, like you're doing, because it's right, because the dots exist to like, one, you need to do that to progress, but it also is telling you like what to do, right? It's like the ingenious design of like Pac-Man, right? In this game, like in its own way, it's like it leads you to play, right? It leads you to play. It leads you to like what it is, like what it does, right? Since we're talking about Clair Obscur, right, which is a French game, it's like it's raison d'être, right? Like it's reason of being, right? It's like it shows it to you, right? It's really awesome. I think it's a great game. That's definitely going to be a game that's going to appear like at my end at all the different lists and award things that I partake in. I'm going to champion it a lot. And if I had to do like a list of like somebody who isn't into games and wants to get that, I think that's like an automatic ad for me. I think that's the game would have to show people like first person perspective. That would be it. It's like, hey, like, look at this. So you can get like acclimated to that way of like of playing and like perceiving like a digital world or anything. Fantastic.
I think what you were talking about kind of, if I don't know if you can see my screen right now. This seems to be just kind of like, this is almost like an interstitial of, this is what's going on in the world around you as your character.
Yeah. That's
okay.
No, this is part of the game. So all the cutscenes are essentially gameplay.
Yeah.
That you're seeing.
I'm just taking a look here. What? Okay. Oh, cool. It is. I wasn't sure what it was on because I saw it on Steam, but I'm a console gamer for the most part, not a PC one. But it looks like it is on kind of almost everything.
It's in consoles, and it's
Yeah.
supposed to be coming on Switch later.
Yeah.
We'll see when, though.
Now, yeah, talking about the Switch, I mean, we mentioned it in our previous. We talked about the Switch 2 and the Switch's life cycle and everything, but the Switch is for a while there, the Switch was like the indie console.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so many indie games would come out on the Switch and work perfectly because that console is not necessarily as powerful as your Xboxes and your PlayStations, but for a lot of these, indie games, you don't need that power because they're more focused on this story, this narrative, or this gameplay as opposed to these insane graphics. Now, have you noticed that kind of in your work that like a lot of these indie games kind of run really well on the Switch, or the Switch is known for indies and Nintendo games? That's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, and we were mentioning like Hollow Knight earlier. I mean, that game took off on Switch. I mean, that was like for a lot of folks, that's like a Switch release. Hades is another example of a game that like really took off on the Switch, and both of those are indie games. I mean, the Switch is more mixed bag on indies. A lot of people play indies on the Switch, but that's just because indies tend to be now like, the games that more quote unquote casual folks like end up playing because they have such a wider breadth of like style of games and like all these like other things. They're more, the look of them are more like approachable for a lot of people as opposed to like Square Enix just makes hardcore like RPGs and stuff, or whatever NFT, Bitcoin, garbage. But
I'm mad that I know what those terms are.
Well, we were as we started today with the whole Pokemon streaming apocalypse that we live in now, right? That's just part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, what he's referring to really quick, I'm going to pull this up. This is from the official Pokemon website telling you how to watch all of the Pokemon shows and how fucking segmented it is.
Where everything is.
Netflix has this, but then Prime Video has this. But Prime Video channels, that's a separate add-on apparently, has all this. Hulu has 3 seasons and some movies.
And
there's a thing called Happy Kids. That has fun times on Monpoke Island. We're in hell. God, I need to close that tab or else I will keep looking at it.
But so the mixed bag though is like even games that the problem with the Switch, which the Switch 2 looks to like fix, is that if you have to design it first for the Switch for it to run well, because there's not a one-to-one from like other consoles, or it's not that easy. Like you can't do like which a lot of indie games, what they do is initially it's gonna be like a PC thing, and then you're releasing alongside with the Switch. It's like you have to essentially do like 2 different builds for the game, where you have to do a lot of tinkering. We were talking about 1,000 Times Resist, right? And it's like that's a game that very clear. If you play that on the PC or on consoles, it runs so much better. Well, on other consoles, runs so much better than it does on the Switch, like the Switch port. And it's not a game that's like technically like, the lighting is really impressive, but there's not much when it comes. It's not like this powerhouse. It's not like Final Fantasy VII, Rebirth or like whatever. It just has like these issues with this, and that comes off like even with some games that you would expect it not to. And
it's gonna pop that out. It's a little. I just bought it on Xbox.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So because you're talking about it, and it looks. Yeah.
No, it's worth it. It's worth it, and it's actually a cool game too if you want to like have somebody watching as well. Like I think it's an enjoyable experience to like see somebody playing it.
Yeah.
It's and I know currently indie games aren't doing that well on the Switch sales wise.
Yeah.
I think like if you would compare it to like PC sales, I think now it's not. It's not. The Nintendo games are doing well on Switch, obviously, but that's the only way that they're like released. There was a point where I was like, I need to release this game on the Switch to get like traction. But stuff like Steam Deck and then gaming has just moved. I think we are. It's not talked enough about just like how much like it's moved to PC in the past few
Yeah.
years. And it's interesting to see what something like the Switch 2 and then whatever else Microsoft and Sony decide to do. Like how's that actually like how many folks are there actually gonna get to like adopt the consoles when you can just play them on the PC? Honestly,
Yeah.
to me, it's like
Yeah.
you just need a PC, and if you want to play the Nintendo games, you get the Nintendo console, and you don't really need anything
Yeah.
else. Like you're gonna miss what like two PlayStation like exclusives.
Well,
and
you're
then,
going to miss 2 PlayStation exclusives, but then they're going to go to PC in a year.
Yeah.
And then 6 months after that, they're going to work on PC, you know? So it's like 18 months later, you get Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
I just
we'll see
built
when
the PC that
about
I'm
next year or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, the PC I'm on now, like I built this last year, and I have a Steam Deck, but for some of the stuff that I have on Steam, it's not all that great for it. And just being able to kind of go into Steam and be like, "Oh yeah, this game that is only on here, like I'm gonna be able to play with my friends." And I have a PC now that runs anything that I want to play. And now I'm looking at Steam, looking at all these indie games, just being like, this, I've never heard of this. Let's get a demo. Let's buy this because it's $2. Let's do this. itch.io, I'm afraid to dive into that, ocean of stuff because I'm like, there's probably going to be some really cool shit on there.
Yeah, I mean the good thing with itch.io, a lot of the stuff's either already on Steam, or a lot of actually really cool itch.io games are browser games. You can just go on itch.io and just play it on your browser, and and they're pretty short. So or if you might like them, play them for like a few minutes, or you might just immediately be like, no, not for me, and you move on. So,
yeah.
There's all that. But I have to hop off pretty soon.
Yeah, no, we were gonna wrap up here. I'm looking at the clock too, and I'm like, yeah, let's start getting over here. Luis, thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
Okay.
I know it's
much later.
Best friends, so it's worth it.
You're our best friend. You're invited on here anytime you want to. Just let us know ahead of time so that we can get off work and then, be here.
But if we were doing this on other days, it might be more flexible. Yeah. Too, so
yeah, Tuesdays are just our days. But once again, before we go, give us a couple recommendations for some games, and then tell us where to find you online.
Yeah, well, recommendations. I talked about Despelote. I can't recommend that enough. I'll give you I'll give an oddball one here. Space Invaders Extreme. The greatest game ever made. All right, that's what I'm gonna say.
Should I not look anything up, or
no? Look at it. Look at it.
Okay.
It originally came out on the DS, but it's available on a lot of places now. So yeah, check that out. And where can people find me? All over the internet. Just at my name. If you want to follow me on Blue Sky, I'm at Aguas Points at Blue Sky. Blah 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 blah, whatever. There.
All that
so
fun
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, and we'll have that in the description down below. So follow Luis. I mean, like I said, I think I was already following you from one of those like Blue Sky things. And then you were like, "Hey, have me on. Like, I want to do podcasts." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I've got a podcast, and I want to talk to cool ass people." And you're here. It took us a little while to nail it down, but yeah.
I'm only as cool as the people whose podcasts I'm on, and you guys
don't say that because you're cool, and this motherfucker's wearing an Everton kit. You know,
I am a loser.
Yeah.
Don't say that. The losers are the new cool kids.
There it is. Take that, losers, Robert.
No, the losers are the Spurs fans.
It's true.
Gross.
Can you imagine when that team was so good?
No.
Do you remember that? That was like such a like.
Wait, hold on. What Spurs are you referring to, Luis?
San Antonio basketball.
No. We're talking about the Tottenham Hotspur.
Listen. But we can talk about the San Antonio Spurs just backing into another, top 3 pick?
Yeah.
And you got Wemby. You're going to get another talent.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Follow Luis everywhere. Follow him on Blue Sky. Once again, that's where I was going to say discovered you, but that sounds like super. No. That's just. I saw you on Blue Sky, followed you. I was like, this is a guy who likes games, and he's fucking cool as shit. So, give him a follow. And Mike, is that a good enchilada?
It's a great enchilada. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Might not survive to be lunch tomorrow.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you can follow me. It is Nerding for Beginners on Instagram and Facebook, and nfbofficial.bluesky.social. What have you. Still need to get the Storymoders handle on there.
Send me your password. I'll do that tomorrow.
All right. We'll make that happen.
I'm on Blue Sky, Mr._Hawks at storymotors.com, and then just follow us at storymotors.com on Blue Sky. Check out the Pride clothing lineup today. This goes up. Grab a couple shirts. Grab the pint glass. Drink with us next week or the week after. Next week, we are going to be joined by Verum Dex and Chrono Katie to talk all about Expedition 33. It's going to be full of goddamn spoilers. A big old spoiler cast. I'm going to talk about... I'm not going to spoil it now because that's next week. So next week, be prepared.
I will drive up there and stab you with a fork if you spoil this game for me.
Finish Expedition 33.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Luis, thank you so much.
Thank you, Luis. Appreciate
for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And
for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Are you going to be at the... do you go to the Game Awards, like the Keeleys?
No, I never go to... I hate LA.
That's fair.
I think this will be the year that I'll get my invitation. I'll stop getting invitations because I haven't gone since they began that stuff. So
yeah. I mean, I was going to say I'll meet you there because I'm going to be there because as where we're at, I just go out there to hang out with a bunch of friends and then go watch the Game Awards and be like, holy shit, it's a trailer for something. And then go to the after party.
It's so loud in there. It's so loud in that. God. It's just like
so
crazy. I could imagine it's like a place where like it doesn't get any better where you like. It doesn't matter where you are. Like if you're in the front, you're gonna hear it. If you're in the back, you're gonna. It's just like
it's just gonna be.
What the hell's going on?
It was. There was a trailer this year that had like a bird song, like a really high pitched bird song, and it was the loudest fucking noise I've ever heard in my life. In this entire theater, and it went on for way too long. But yeah,
just like the Game Awards. Oh shit! I'm probably gonna if Keeley. I'm gonna he comes to
Keeley's not gonna fucking watch. If Keeley watches this, post
send
about
us some
fuck, dude.
Post about it. Send us some invites so we can get some sweet access.
But the real Game Awards are the New York Game Critic Awards.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, y'all. We will see you next week. Bye.